Hey guys, welcome back to another video inspired by a Tumblr post I saw. Actually, multiple Tumblr posts. I have a few to show you, but this is kind of a part two to that video I did called Have Internet Aesthetics Gone Too Far or something like that. I'll link it up here somewhere. I'm gonna just kind of expand on the topics that I was discussing in that video, but you don't have to watch that video to watch this one. In that other video, I used cottagecore as an example. A lot of people using an aesthetic as fashion and not really caring about the lifestyle behind that aesthetic. I used that one as an example a lot because it was kind of an easy example to use, to be honest. I feel like when it comes to alternative subcultures like grunge, goth, etc., it actually gets a lot more complicated. There's like a lot of culture behind it. I think a lot because those subcultures are tied to music, and there tends to be a very vibrant culture behind music-based communities. So buckle up. I'm gonna read you guys this grunge post. It's a long one, but the post starts by someone saying, "Keep popularizing the body neutrality movement, gang. I want to see how the makeup and weight loss industries try to capitalize on I literally do not give two shits about how I look." And then someone says, "Take a look at what the fashion industry did to grunge and you'll know that they absolutely can." What did they do? Alright, buckle up because it's time for a bit of a history lesson. Basically, the whole idea behind grunge was fuck consumerism, fuck capitalism, fuck beauty standards and gender norms and the fashion industry. Do not give a fuck about what you look like, refuse to buy into beauty standards, and refuse to participate in fashion trends, and literally just wear the cheapest, comfiest, most practical clothes you can get your hands on, preferably secondhand so as to say fuck you to corporate, and then wear these clothes until they're literally falling apart. And since the birthplace and capital of the genre was Seattle, a northern lumberjack town, comical way to describe Seattle, Washington, by the way, the clothes that were cheap, comfy, durable, and practical around there were flannels, beanies, big blue jeans, docks, military surplus boots. So that's what the bands wore, and so that's what people in the grunge movement started wearing. The fashion industry decided to create a cleaner version of that. So they started selling the anti-fashion, anti-consumerist look as consumerist fashion. Fast forward to 2014 and you see people wearing an all brand new outfit consisting of black skin-tight jeans that you can't move in and are ripped before they're sold and don't last more than a year, $500 docks, expensive flannels that are too thin to be warm, $100 beanie, on-fleek makeup that costs more than those bands lived off of at the start of their careers, took hours to apply, and finally a paper-thin Nirvana shirt sold for $50 and worn without any idea what anything but sounds like a teen spirit sounds like, which isn't a grunge song BT dubs. It's a satirical pop song made to mock the kind of music that it is. This part's a little pretentious, but we're gonna ignore that because we like their overall point. All of it bought from Hot Topic or H&M, cheap child labor. So actually the complete opposite of what grunge is supposed to be. So grunge is supposed to be I literally do not give two shits about how I look, and yet the fashion and beauty industry totally butchered it. No one seems to know what grunge is anymore. This is how they destroy countercultures. They tried arresting hippies and noticed it didn't work. What did work was stripping the movement of all values, making it fit corporate beauty standards, and selling its empty, powdered husk of a corpse to the masses until it means absolutely nothing. They did it with the hippies, they did it with punk, they did it with grunge, and they'll do it with any new subculture that dares challenge and oppose capitalism. So this person definitely has some points. Grunge in Seattle in the 80s was kind of like an anti-hair metal thing, which was the big genre of music at the time, which was very glam and polished. Grunge music was like dirt, scum music, dirty and grungy, the complete opposite of this glittery, polished, glam hair metal thing that was going on, and it definitely caught on, and Nirvana did become a top charts band. So the grunge movement became so big that, of course, like everything else popular, it became corporatized. The fashion industry absolutely wanted to make money off of this, whereas real grunge fashion from the origins of the movement is not supposed to be bought to look grunge. It's supposed to be whatever you can find at the thrift store. It also had a gender neutral aspect to it. It was just kind of like whatever you can get your hands on, whether that's men's or women's clothes, no matter what you identify as. Kurt Cobain wore dresses on multiple occasions. This movement inspired fashion companies to start selling pre-ripped jeans and kind of sell a grunge look that you can go to the store and pick out and leave looking grunge. And then there's Tumblr grunge, which is interesting because it definitely became its own whole unique thing. Someone in my comment section of my last video on this topic, I'm so sorry, I forget who this was, but this comment stuck out to me. They said something like, it's fine that all these new aesthetics that are derivative of the original grunge, goth, etc. subcultures exist. Please just call it something different. Don't associate it with grunge if it's not what grunge originally was. You know, stuff like that. It hurts the original movement to associate a new aesthetic with it. The Tumblr grunge aesthetic was definitely different from the OG Seattle grunge. It was definitely a lot more put together, but it did kind of have a messy style to it still. I remember seeing like a lot of ripped black tights. I remember seeing flannels, jean jackets, beanies. There was weirdly a side to it that I didn't even realize was Tumblr grunge. I kind of associated more with the people who liked indie rock. It's just like kind of an all black look, but it was kind of put together, if that makes sense. There's definitely a lot of overlap between different Tumblr aesthetics, but I thought that that was more like the indie rock side of Tumblr, but apparently that was Tumblr grunge too, which is definitely pretty far from the OG grunge movement in terms of fashion. This is an image that I saw on Tumblr. Apparently this is an ad for Kohl's, and it says, "Are you gothcore or are you preppy? Take the style quiz with Kohl's." Trend alert. I don't even have to show you what the person who posted this to Tumblr said or what the replies are. It was all pure outrage, people crying, screaming, punching walls, and rightfully so. This is horrible. First of all, gothcore, are you kidding? These two images are the same. Literally, the gothcore one is just the preppy one, but with a slightly different color scheme. I want to know who made this. Are they completely out of touch, or are they trying to capitalize on gothcore, whatever that is? Purely awful. Just the worst. Here's another post I want to read to you. Love goth culture, but not really loving this prevalent shift into distinct gender presentation that's developed as it's become accepted in society. You remember goths with huge ratty hair and kiss makeup, and men in heels and corsets, and women in huge shapeless sweaters till you couldn't tell who was under what. My first black lipstick was eyeliner. What's this women get crop tops for only $60 crap? What's this being goth is too expensive shit? Girl, draw your nails on with Sharpie and embrace damnation, what the fuck? The entire point was that we didn't contribute to the capitalist machine by buying new things. Cheap, shitty, and now. So this one is about goth culture, but it has the same kind of idea. I don't know as much about goth culture and where that originated, but I know that it has the same general values as grunge, especially when it comes to being anti-capitalism and anti-gender roles. And I want to talk about the gender thing a little bit more because it's something that I keep seeing pop up. This was definitely a thing in punk culture too. Going back to Tumblr grunge, it's not something that I really noticed before, but when grunge became Tumblr grunge, it did become a lot more gendered. You saw a lot of kind of more feminine, traditionally feminine silhouettes. You didn't see like men in the skirt and thigh-high socks thing very often. In fact, I don't think I ever saw that. There was like a soft boy movement that kind of came with the whole Tumblr grunge thing, but it was still its own like uniform, if that makes sense. I think that we know something is becoming corporatized / going mainstream when we start to lose the gender neutrality of it all. Because the fashion industry, for the most part, hasn't really become gender neutral at all, it's still like women's and men's clothing. When we kind of see the split into two different aesthetics, two different uniforms of grunge or goth or whatever, that's when we know we've lost it to the mainstream. And I think when there's more of a uniform to an aesthetic, it kind of strips away the creativity of it. Now with grunge, I guess there wasn't really supposed to be creativity. It was supposed to be like you don't care about what you look like, but with goth, I mean, this is definitely relevant. There's so many different things you can do with goth and punk. It's supposed to be messy and crazy and creative and gender neutral. Now, I want to read you a reply from the post about grunge that I thought was very interesting. You're leaving out the most important part, which is that it's not the fashion and beauty industry that eroded these movements, but the fact that all counterculture or movements based on not giving a fuck have a finite lifetime and are inherently doomed to fail. Counterculture is self-defeating. Either you get so big that you become the culture to be countered, when the people who were part of it become the establishment, hippies, grunge, punk, or you don't gain any traction and fizzle out. Industry didn't ruin these cultures. They become nostalgic for the old who grew out of them, and a costume for the young, same as any era fashion. All the actual ideas of punk, grunge, and hippies all still exist. This post is describing one. They all just got disconnected from the name, the music, and the look over time. The people who were grunge in the 80s are now somewhere between 45 and 65 years old now. So, I've always kind of thought this about music, especially in the punk community, and probably all of these subcultures. When a band becomes mainstream, they are no longer cool. They're not cool, they're not punk, because they're mainstream. But the thing is, like, you can either let them become mainstream or you can watch them die out and not be a band anymore because they all have to go back to their day jobs because they can't afford to make music anymore because they didn't make it. I think I've said that before somewhere on this channel because, like, that's kind of how it goes. It either becomes mainstream or it dies. And this person says the same thing about the fashion. And they might be kind of right. I mean, but I still do think the original post is absolutely true. The fashion industry does corporatize these things and kind of kill their original spark. And I think things like Tumblr grunge becoming a thing and now all these aesthetics on TikTok, I don't know if that necessarily, like, kills the original movement or the original aesthetic, but I do think there needs to be some sort of separation in people's minds between these new aesthetics and the alternative movements, because it's a little gatekeepy, but it is a little bit ironic to see someone wearing a Nirvana shirt, pre-ripped jeans that were expensive, and full glam makeup, you know, when they know nothing about the origins of grunge and kind of where the grunge idea came from. But also, like, I don't know, you might be assuming that they don't. Maybe they just like makeup. Maybe they just bought the first pair of jeans that fit them right. I do think if you're gonna emulate the aesthetic that is derived from something, you should know about the culture that it's derived from at least. You should at least be aware, in my opinion. I don't know. Of course, like, dress however you want. I'm always of the opinion of that. Even if it's a popular, trendy aesthetic. If you happen to like it, wear it. But I do think there needs to be some awareness. I would love to know what you guys think on this topic, if I missed anything important that I should have said. Of course, there's a lot to be said about a topic like this. Do you guys think that internet aesthetics or popular fashion aesthetics harm actual subcultures? Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.